I'm just going to check our website to see if our streaming is up. I'm just waiting for us to refresh. Councillor Core did indicate that we should move forward without him. I've sent his email to IT, so they should be reaching out to him.
Okay.
But once we know we're on streaming, we can begin, if you're
Okay.
okay with that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do understand that our live streaming is up and available, so we can start the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. I see that we have quorum, so I call this meeting to order. Public meeting under the Planning Act. Adoption of agenda. Oh, so Holly, I see you have to read the opening PowerPoint. So, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public meeting under the Planning Act for Monday, August 10th, 2020, 4 p.m. All Town of Pelham in-person public meetings have been canceled. Instead, the town is holding all meetings electronically via Zoom. Please note, no decisions have been made prior to this public meeting. The Planning Department will be providing a presentation. Participants are reminded, ensure your background is free from offensive or vulgar material. If inappropriate material is visible, you will be removed from the meeting. Vulgar or offensive language will not be tolerated. If inappropriate language is used, you will be removed from the meeting. Participant microphones and video cameras will remain off until they are called to speak. Once your comments have been heard by the committee, your microphone will be muted and staff will turn off your microphone. Once voting on an item has taken place, participants will be removed from the meeting completely. You may resume viewing the meeting via live stream. Decorum. The public meeting under a Planning Act is a formal public hearing requiring decorum, meaning all comments are to be made through the chair. If you have pre-registered to speak, you will be given an opportunity to address the committee at the public portion of the meeting. If you are live streaming and wish to submit a comment live, please email clerks@pelham.ca. Please note, comments must be received during the public portion of the meeting, otherwise they will not be considered. Disrespectful comments will not be tolerated. Cheering, booing, or hissing from the gallery will not be tolerated. Please note, if decorum is lost, the meeting may be recessed and persons will be asked to leave. If you wish to receive a copy of the Notice of Decision, please contact the planner responsible for the application in writing as soon as possible. Shannon Larocque, Senior Planner, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fonthill, Ontario, LOS 1E0, slarocque@pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found at the Town of Pelham's website. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are now at the adoption of the agenda. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn that the agenda for the August 10th, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted. If there is any discussion,
Not seeing any. We'll call the vote, please.
thank you. Councillor Hahn,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councillor Kaur. I do see Councillor Kaur has now joined us. Councillor Kaur, how is your vote for adopting the agenda as circulated? Councillor Kaur, can you hear us? Oh, I see that he's connecting. I will circle back. Councillor Hildebrandt? Sorry, Councillor
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Councillor Wink?
Yes.
Mayor Junkin?
Yes.
Councillor Kaur? For the adoption of the agenda as circulated, how do you vote? Yes?
Yes.
And that carries. We are now at pecuniary interest, Mr. Mayor?
Pardon me?
We are now at the pecuniary
Yes.
interest.
Yep. Any councillor have any pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to declare? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please take note.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And you, go ahead.
We are now at the Planning Act application AM 01-20-1307 Hayes Street. I do have some opening remarks to read. Notice requirements. Town of Pelham application for zoning bylaw amendment, 1307 Hayes Street, file number AM-05-20. A zoning bylaw amendment to permit the use of the property for 3 street townhouse dwellings with permission for accessory dwelling units. The Planning Act requires under Section 34 that council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. This public meeting has been called to satisfy this requirement. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on July 17th, 2020. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. In addition to providing information, we will also receive any comments which any member of the public may wish to offer. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the clerk in writing as soon as possible. Contact information is available on the town's website and will also be displayed on the last slide of staff's presentation to follow shortly. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Town of Pelham to the local planning appeal tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Town of Pelham before the bylaw is passed, the person, public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. In closing, we stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and therefore any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have our planning department. Our planner, Shannon LaRocque, has a presentation.
Okay. Shannon, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, it will just take one moment to share her screen for her presentation materials.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. The application that we are here to discuss tonight is for a zoning bylaw amendment for property known as 1307 Hayes Street. The property is located on the northeast corner of Hayes Street and Pancake Lane, and the application proposes to change the zoning of the property to allow street townhouse dwellings along with accessory dwelling units. The proposed site layout shows 3 street townhouses with 2-car garages. All driveways are proposed to come from Hayes Street. And the permission for the accessory dwelling unit could be within those dwellings or within a detached accessory building. The property's elevations show bungalow townhouses. In terms of the planning policy framework, the property is designated settlement area in the provincial policy statement. And settlement areas are to be the focus of growth and development and include a mix of uses, housing options, and densities that efficiently use land and infrastructure. The property is designated delineated built-up area in the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Half of all new residential development is to occur within the delineated built-up area. Intensification is generally encouraged with a mix of residential and employment uses. The Niagara Region official plan designates the property as urban built-up area. This designation permits a full range of residential, commercial, and industrial uses subject to available services and infrastructure. There are policies within the plan that promote higher density development and growth that contributes to a range of employment and housing types. 15% of intensification is to occur within this area. The Town of Pelham official plan designates the property urban living area and built boundary. This designation permits a range of residential uses as well as institutional and neighborhood commercial uses. There is a policy contained within the town's official plan that requires council to be satisfied when making a decision on a new zoning bylaw amendment to permit townhouses. And council is to be satisfied that the proposal respects the character of the neighborhood in terms of the height, bulk, and massing, that it can be easily integrated with surrounding land uses, that it will not cause or create traffic hazards or unacceptable congestion, and that the site has adequate parking, amenity space, landscaping, and buffering. The town's zoning bylaw zones the property R1 residential 1 at this time, and the applicant has requested that that zoning be changed to a site-specific residential multiple 1 that would support the development of the street townhouse dwellings along with the accessory apartments. And the application for zoning bylaw amendment requests a number of site-specific changes, and those include the permission, of course, for the accessory dwelling units, which would be defined as a second dwelling unit on a lot with a principal dwelling that is created through converting part of or adding onto the existing dwelling that maintains an independent entrance or is within a detached accessory building. And examples of that would include an in-law suite, a basement suite, or a coach house. There is also a provision in the town zoning bylaw at this time that prohibits dwelling units within a basement, and the application proposes to delete that requirement with respect to this property. There are some site-specific setbacks that are also being requested that would facilitate the development as shown on the site layout plan. And those are a reduction in the minimum front yard to 4.5 meters to the building facade and 6 meters to the garage from 7.5 meters. A reduction in the minimum exterior side yard to 4.5 meters from 7.5 meters. A reduction in the minimum rear yard requirement to 7 meters from 7.5 meters. And finally, the deletion of the requirement for a planting strip, which would normally be required along the north and east sides of this property. This application has been circulated to a number of utilities, town departments, and commenting agencies. And the following comments were received from those groups at the time this presentation was prepared. No objections were received from Enbridge Gas and Town Public Works. Canada Post offered no conditions, but advised that this property would be served by the Fonthill Post Office. And the building division has advised that separate permits would be required for each dwelling unit. At the time that this presentation was prepared, no comments had been received from the public, but that has definitely changed as of now. A number of comments have been received, and I'll provide an overview of them. Catherine and Dave Sizzler have provided a petition against the proposed development with approximately 89 signatures from area residents. They have also raised a number of policies from the town's official plan that they feel the proposal does not conform to. And I believe the Sizzlers have registered to speak this afternoon as well, and so I will leave their comments for them to further explain. Jeff Martinson has requested that council stop changes to zones in R1 areas. He believes there is too much sprawl in Fonthill. Susan McLaughlin Martinson is against the application. She feels that new townhouses and big houses on small lots are contributing to urban sprawl. She's concerned that this type of development takes away from Fonthill and what makes it unique. Anita McKenzie is not supportive. She's concerned about traffic and safety, as well as the precedent that could be set by this application. Alicia Aitchison and Robert Swayze are concerned about traffic and the resulting safety issues. They feel that the development does not fit in the community and would set a disappointing precedent. They hope that the application is denied. Bev and Don Haste feel that townhouses will change the aesthetic of the older neighborhood. They are concerned about traffic and safety. Jennifer and Trevor Gords are concerned about traffic congestion, that the property will not be maintained, that the aesthetics don't suit the neighborhood, that future renters will not be invested in the neighborhood, and that property values will decrease. John and Carol Laidman feel that townhouses will not match the rest of the street, that the volume of traffic and increased vehicles would create safety concerns. They're concerned that a precedent could be set, and they are opposed. John and Elizabeth Salter are concerned that townhouses do not match the neighborhood and could set a precedent. They're concerned about the impact on the town's infrastructure. Michelle and Danny Gilbert are concerned that this will change their neighborhood. They're concerned about the potential for short-term rentals in the accessory dwelling units. They're also concerned about parking, traffic safety, and property values. They too are opposed to the application. And finally, Patricia Rocco and Gregory Golob are opposed due to safety, traffic, and community changes. They're concerned about setting a precedent. In conclusion, no decisions or recommendations are being made about this application this afternoon. Once town staff have had an opportunity to review all the comments that are received today and that have been received in writing, we will prepare a recommendation report for council's consideration at a later date. If you have not already provided comments to the town in writing or are registered to speak this afternoon, or have not requested notices in writing from myself or the clerk, please do so as soon as possible so that we can make sure to keep you informed. And following this afternoon's meeting, if there are any follow-up questions, I'm available through the contact information on this slide. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I do have a motion put forward by Councillor Kaur that committee receive report 2020-117 for information as it pertains to 1307 Hay Street, file number AM-0520, and recommend to council that council direct planning staff to prepare a recommendation report on the application for consideration, and there may be discussion.
Yes, so any questions from members of council on the presentation just made by the planner Sharon LaRocque of the Planning Department? So any questions on that presentation? Councillor Kaur.
Yes, through you, Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Kaur, you are muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is this the future of our community?
And I take it you're addressing this. Are you addressing this to Ms. LaRocque?
To the Director of Planning.
To the Director?
What it leads to, developers are going to come in our community, purchase all these properties, knock down the old buildings and put townhomes. And I could see Pancake Lane becoming all full of townhomes. And again, a lot of these people, the 90 people that signed this, signed the document, they didn't buy into this. You know, they bought a home, so they want single dwelling properties around them, and that's what they bought into. And we're changing the game on them, and that's not fair. And that's my comments, and I'm just going to leave it that way.
Okay. I will ask the planning director any comments on the comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, as council is aware, when we receive applications, we are obligated to process those and bring them to council for a decision. Ultimately, it is council's decision to make. There are policies in our official plan, policies in the regional plan, and policies from the provincial government as well that do provide for the opportunity for us to look at areas for redevelopment and infill and intensification. And so I can't speak to whether or not this will happen everywhere in the town, but you know, there might be opportunities that property owners see where they would like to see if they can get approval for that. And that's exactly what this application is. There's no decision that's being made tonight. And certainly the Planning Act does provide for the ability to make application and to request changes to zoning bylaws. I certainly can appreciate that people, when they've bought their home and they've invested in their home, they have a certain expectation. However, you know, as planning department and planning staff cannot guarantee that council won't ever receive an application. That's something that is beyond our ability to guarantee, and people do have the right to make application.
Thank you for those comments, Madam Director. Any other comments or questions concerning the presentation? Not seeing any. I will ask the clerk to call the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the vote, Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. We are now to the applicant's presentation. Mr. Mayor, if you could just give us a moment to share our screen to bring his presentation up.
Okay. What's his name?
It's Matt.
Okay, you can introduce him. Okay.
The applicant, the applicant here it's the agent actually representing the applicant. It's Matt from Upper Canada Consultants. Kernahan.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, staff. My name is Matt Kernahan, and I'm a senior planner with Upper Canada Planning and Engineering Limited. I'm here on behalf of my client, 2741546 Ontario Incorporated, who owns the property at 1307 Hay Street. On behalf of our client, we've submitted an application that is subject to the public meeting this afternoon. The purpose of the application is to permit the redevelopment of the property as 3 townhouse dwelling units. I'll attempt to be brief in my presentation, as staff has done a very good job at providing the background, context, and some policy analysis on this. And the purpose of my presentation will be just to highlight some of what I view as the high points on the application and to answer any questions that council has. Slide, please. This slide provides some context on the site location. The site is located in the built-up area of Fawn Hill at the corner of Hay Street and Pancake Lane. Property is currently occupied by 1 single detached dwelling, as well as an accessory structure. There is currently 1 driveway with access to Hay Street. Slide, please. The proposal to amend the zoning will facilitate the development of the site for 3 townhouse dwellings with frontage on Hay Street. The proposed dwellings are bungalows, approximately 1,500 square feet each, and each have double car garages as well as double car driveways, which provides the opportunity for 4 cars at each of the dwelling units. The proposed dwellings will have similar setbacks to other dwellings along Hay Street, and driveways are well set back from the intersection of Hay Street and Pancake Lane. Amenity areas for the dwellings will be provided in the 7-meter rear yard setbacks. Slide, please. The proposal to amend the zoning is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the provincial Places to Grow Up plan, as well as the Region of Niagara official plan, and the policies of the Town of Pelham official plan. In particular, the proposal is consistent with provincial policies for residential and housing development within settlement areas, including the built boundary within which this is located. The proposal also adds some much needed variety to the housing stock in the neighborhood, which is also consistent with provincial housing policies. The proposed development conforms to the applicable Town of Pelham official plan objectives and policies, including those related to growth and settlement, urban character, infrastructure, and intensification. Although the proposal will introduce a new form of housing in the area, it is my professional planning opinion that it is compatible and appropriate at this location. The proposal, although different, represents a very minor intensification to the neighborhood. The subject site is located on a collector road, which are often considered appropriate places for intensification. The proposed density at approximately 21 units per hectare is in keeping with the town's policies for residential intensification. The addition of the 2 units to the subject site will increase the number of residential dwellings within 300 meters of the subject site from 266 to 268. This constitutes a 0.77% increase in density to the area, which is significantly less than the town's official plans policies permit. Development also incorporates high-quality urban design, significant setbacks, and adequate parking, and it's my contention that it will effectively integrate into the neighborhood. Next slide, please. This slide is just a duplicate of something which is already covered by planning staff, and it highlights the requested site-specific amendments to the zoning. Slide, please. This slide shows the areas in which the site-specific zoning relief is requested, in particular in the rear yard, which is above the dwelling units in this figure, in the front yard, and in the yard abutting Pancake Lane. The proposed relief from the zoning regulations is minor and will not result in any negative impacts to adjoining properties, the streetscapes, or pedestrian or vehicular safety. Site-specific zoning, in my view, has positive implications as it will orient the dwellings to the street, and it will provide an opportunity for some affordable housing within the community by way of second dwelling units. Slide, please. The proposed development includes a number of high-quality urban design elements which contribute to its positive aesthetic and will assist it in integrating into the neighborhood. The exterior of the building will be clad in high-quality masonry. The buildings are proposed as bungalows and will have a similar height to surrounding buildings at approximately 8 meters. The development includes increased interior side yard setbacks to the north and large rear yard setbacks, which will provide adequate area for the residents to use for amenity purposes. The building is oriented towards Hay Street with, in my view, a positive street presence. The side of the building facing Pancake Lane is articulated towards it with a significant amount of windows to provide a positive aesthetic on this elevation. Slide, please. Unfortunately, at the time I prepared this presentation, I hadn't had the opportunity to review the public and agency comments because of the presentation deadline. However, since that time, I have had a chance to review these, and I offer the following with respect to them. The most common public comment was that there was a preference to not have townhouses at this location, and a sentiment that they don't fit in. I'd contend that while not the same, townhouses are compatible with single detached dwellings. The proposed townhouses have been designed to integrate into this with the surrounding land uses and minimize massing impacts on them. Further, the minor intensification and the addition of variety in the housing stock is supported by provincial, regional, and town planning policies. Second, there were a number of comments regarding permissions for accessory apartments within the dwellings. I'd suggest that this concept is strongly encouraged by provincial, regional, and town planning policies as a means of integrating affordable housing into our communities. There were a number of comments regarding the use of dwellings as rental units, both short and long-term, as well as the type of people who might live in these dwellings. The proposal before you this evening is about housing form and nothing more, to permit townhouse dwellings at this location. The application has nothing to do with the tenure of the dwelling or the person who might live in it. And in fact, planning legislation would prevent us from zoning for tenure and for zoning for the type of people who would live in these dwelling units. Thirdly, a number of comments were received regarding the inadequacy of parking. Town zoning regulations require one parking space per dwelling unit. In this instance, each of the 3 units will have double car garages with double car driveways for a total of 4 parking spaces per unit. This provision significantly exceeds the town's requirements. Another theme in the public comments was related to traffic, sightline, pedestrian and cycling safety issues. This proposal includes the net addition of 2 dwelling units, which will have access to a collector road. The addition of these 2 units will have a negligible impact on the operation of the road. The proposed driveways are well set back from the intersection in order that there will be, in order that there won't be any sightline or safety issues. And I'd suggest that the town's engineering staff were circulated on the proposal and did not identify any traffic or safety issues through their review. Lastly, I'd just like to mention that none of the agencies that have provided comments to date have indicated any objection to the proposal. Slide, please. And I thank you very much for your time. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that council staff or the public has of me, and I'm happy to participate in this meeting until its end. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation. Before, it has been suggested by the clerk that before we take questions on this gentleman's presentation, that we will hear from the citizens their comments, and then we can comment. We'll come back to the applicant's presentation. So, Madam Clerk, we will have the public input now, please.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, did you want to have the resolution to accept the applicant's presentation just for information, or did you want to wait on that as well?
Let's wait on that too then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have 3 registered members of the public. Ms. Leach will just be bringing them in one at a time. Our first registered member of the public is Jordana Cardinal, and Sarah will be bringing her in just so that members of the public who are watching at home live stream, if you wish to make further comment, you can now email. This is the public portion of the meeting. You can email clerks@pelham.ca. We will be watching that email address, so please feel free to email your comments. That's clerks@pelham.ca. Okay, you do have the floor.
So I'm not Jordana, but I am her husband, Jesse. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly how this works, but we live on the property 53 Pancake Lane that backs the entire length of ours backs up into the backyard of what would be the backyard of the 3 proposed properties. And we're just concerned about what that of course is going to do to the surrounding area in terms of a few things. I think we were looking at a big one for us is the trees. There's a selection of some pretty big, awesome trees that live all around there. One of the main reasons we moved to the neighborhood, that we're not sure exactly how that would pan out. We are concerned, like it was mentioned in some comments before, about property values. I know it's all theoretical of having the rental properties there, and of course you can't speak on who may or may not be there, but again, it's just something that's not really in the area, and it's something we chose to live there, to live away from. And yeah, I think that's it's, again, the sight lines were mentioned as well, which was a concern for us, as it would block out a significant portion of what we see there. And yeah, like I said, those trees are a big concern there, that they kind of they go around the entire property, and that property alone also has a huge, about half of it is tree growth. That I know of somebody, whoever owns that property, could do what they want with those, but it is
We have trees on it.
yeah, but yeah. So I guess that's
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. And then next.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll bring in the next registered member of the public, and that's Natalie Repchill. You can bring her in, Ms. Leach. It just takes one moment, Mr. Mayor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We have similar concerns. Our property backs onto Jesse and Jordana's. My backyard is perpendicular to the 1307 Hayes Street. And our concerns are very similar. This is a long established area. Most of these houses were built in the 60s. So most of our trees are around 40 to 50 years old. There's beautiful tree canopies here. And having some new development there, A, eliminates the natural beauty and the existing green space here. B, moving the, I guess it's called a boulevard, and having the sidewalk right adjacent to the road. That's a very large walkway to get to AK Wig. And there's a lot of kids, like more than half the kids, who walk to AK Wig up that hill. There's lots of kids on bikes. My own children are 8 and 10. Right now, when they bike and walk along Haste, the cars are so far, like most of our driveways are 2 car lengths long. So there's tons of space in terms of from vehicular traffic to pedestrian and bike traffic to be aware of space and safety issues. Where Pancake crosses Haste isn't like a direct road. It's a bit of a jog. So that's another safety concern. I understand the need for redevelopment and regrowth and, taking advantage of land and making something potentially better, but it doesn't really fit with the existing community feel. As for parking, so if you have 2 cars in the garage and 2 cars on the driveway, you can't really park on Pancake and Haste. So I live on Orchard Place. Does that mean I'm going to end up with a bunch of people living in basement apartments parking on my street all the time? We have no sidewalks on our street. It's over 50 years old. So now it's yet again a safety issue with kids and neighbors. There's a lot of seniors on this street that walk with walkers and things up and down the street for their exercise. Are they going to be in the middle of the road if there's cars parked on either side? Those are my concerns. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your taking the time to appear before council. Appreciate that. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have our last pre-registered members of the public, and that's David and Catherine Sisler. And just give us one moment to add them into the meeting and to also share our screen with their presentation that they submitted on the weekend.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Do you want to just start the PowerPoint presentation and then I'll follow through with my concerns?
Yeah, we're just, thank you. We're just sharing our screen. You should see your PowerPoint on the screen now.
Yes, I do. Thank you. My husband and I, Dave and I, moved to Fonthill 31 years ago. When we were first looking for a home, we looked in many areas in the Niagara region. The reason why we came to Fonthill is because we really liked the neighborhood, the look and feel of the neighborhood in this area. The houses have a deep setback. They're quite a distance from the road. There are a lot of trees in the area, and also you have a little bit of breathing space between the houses. So whenever we saw the posting at 1307 Haste, we thought initially that the developer was maybe going to build a larger, more modern home, or possibly even 2 small homes or a duplex based on the size of the lot. We were quite shocked to see that the developer was actually proposing 6 units on the lot. I started going door to door to see what other residents in the area thought of the proposal. And I thought to myself too that we could get a petition going for those residents who were in objection to such a change. A lot of the residents voiced their objection, and they also identified a lot of concerns to me. As you can see from the petition, I actually have 90 signatures at the present time. I thought, how do we look at the concerns and based on the rules of rezoning? So I went to look at both all 3, the provincial, the regional, and the town of Pelham's plan for development. The Pelham official plan was approved by the Ontario Municipal Board in 2014. I also thought maybe there are some changes between the 3 levels of government. So I checked back, and it indicates in March of this year in the council meeting, the director of the Department of Planning and Development for Fonthill confirmed that our current official plan is current and in accordance with the provincial and regional plans. So what I've done is I've started with the official plan and then assessed the concerns of those in the neighborhood. The official plan is basically the blueprint for growth. It provides specific policies and guidelines, and those are meant to protect and enhance the character of existing urban areas. It clearly states that growth must maintain and enhance the character and stability of well-established residential neighborhoods by ensuring that redevelopment or development is compatible with the scale, the density of existing developments. Whenever we look at the actual application for rezoning the property at 1307 Haste, we see that it fails to meet numerous requirements laid out in the official plan. So if we go on to the objectives of redevelopment, they indicate that it has to be compatible, again, with the scale, the density, and the character of the neighborhood. The region's plan also repeats those same guidelines. When we look at the issues at this point, we're looking at compatibility. So a proposed 6-plex is not in keeping with either the character, the scale, the density of the surrounding area, the surrounding neighborhood. Also, if you look at the current zoning in this area, which is for single dwellings, the coverage in that zoning restricts lot coverage to 30%. The illustration provided in the application shows a substantially higher lot coverage, so it's not in keeping with the neighborhood. Then if we look at what the plan has identified as intensification corridors, the town has been very specific about what areas it's going to focus on when it comes to intensification. Those areas are downtown, Highway 20, Canberra, Pelham Street, Pelham Town Center, and Station Street. So the Haste Pancake area has not been identified for as an intensification corridor. Although this doesn't eliminate the possibility of change in these neighborhoods, it still does not identify it as a priority. If we look at the growth in Font Hill or in Pelham, if you look at 2017, Pelham has been identified as the fastest growing municipality in Niagara. So I think we are meeting certain goals in expanding and developing. Again, if we go further into residential intensification, the rules that are outlined say that any kind of development, you have to look at and assess specific items. What they say is you have to assess that density of the proposal relative to the surrounding neighborhood. You have to assess issues of landscaping, access, parking, and maintenance. And they say that any developments must be respectful of and compatible with and designed to be integrated with the neighborhood. When you look at this application, we have certain issues. We do not believe that the application properly addresses landscaping or access or parking or maintenance. We don't believe a sixplex is in keeping with the density of the surrounding area. And we don't believe a sixplex is respectful of or compatible with the neighborhood. Also, if you look at the regional plan, it's very specific about garages. It says we should be de-emphasizing garages in our recent or in our new developments. If you look at the plan that's being provided to us, we see that we have 3 double garages, so 6 garages on this one small property and within very close range to the sidewalk. So the most of the front of the building you'd be looking at would be garages. The official plan also outlines certain criteria for intensification. It talks about achieving a unit density and housing type that is in keeping with the neighborhood. It indicates that any kind of bylaw amendment can only increase the density to up to 25% of the gross density within a 300-meter radius of the property. It requires suitable setbacks. It requires suitable parking space. And it indicates that the traffic movement should not be negatively impacted. So there shouldn't be safety or additional safety issues created by the development. The issues we see when we look at these criteria are, number one, the housing type. We're moving from single-family dwellings to a sixplex. The increase in density, we believe, at least my math shows that the proposed is an increase of 4.6 times the maximum increase that's allowed. The setbacks, the proposed units are 3 to 7 times closer to the road than homes in the immediate neighborhood at the moment. And we don't believe the application sufficiently addresses the issue of parking if it ends up that there are 6 separate dwelling units. We also believe that the traffic movement and overall safety at this intersection will be negatively impacted. I look at the developer's submission and they describe the intensification as minor. They say the development is sympathetic to the existing neighborhood. In my opinion, and in the opinion of the 90 people that I have on my petition, they believe that the proposal is very aggressive and it shows blatant disregard for the neighborhood, for the official plan policies and guidelines, and it doesn't even see it fit to meet the requirements of the new zoning. They want the new zoning to be changed in order to adapt to the proposal that's being submitted. To look at those issues just in a little bit more detail, if we look at the housing type, The houses in this immediate area, or if you look in within the 300-meter range of this property, they're all single-family dwellings. Single-family dwellings versus a sixplex, to me, is a dramatic increase. If we look at the increase in density, we believe the change far exceeds the 25% increase allowed. I've shown how I've come up with my numbers, but I'm indicating that 3 units at this site would result in a density of 469 square meters per dwelling. That's 3 times the current density and 2.3 times the permitted increase. If you look at 6 units on this site, that equals a density of 235 square meters per dwelling. That's 6 times the current density and 4.6 times the permitted increase. So then we move on to the setbacks. So if you go to the next slide, the setback of the current properties. If you look on Hayes Street right now, the average setback is approximately 17 meters from the curb. On the south side of Pancake, the average setback is 18.5 meters. And on the north side of Pancake, the average setback is 29 meters. So these proposed dwellings will be 3 to 7 times closer to the curb than the existing homes. The development's also going to have a substantially larger footprint than single-family homes in this area. So the size, the bulk, and the limited setback from the road make this development incompatible with the surrounding properties and incompatible with the nature and character of our current neighborhood. Then if we move on to parking, we do not believe that the proposal has provided sufficient parking to accommodate 6 dwellings. That's not to mention the additional vehicles for visitors or people who are also staying in the properties. If you look at the corner of Pancake at the moment, over the last few months, we're seeing cars parked right at the end of Pancake at Haste. So this will just be more recurring if you have 6 additional dwellings at this intersection, and it makes this intersection very dangerous. If you look at the traffic movement and safety, we believe the development will negatively impact the traffic movement, and it will create serious safety effects for motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians. The official plan also has certain guidelines where it comes to townhouses and multiple dwellings. It's saying any developments of this character must respect the character of adjacent residential neighborhoods in terms of height, bulk, and massing. It shouldn't cause any kind of traffic hazards or congestion. And there should be adequate land to incorporate all the required parking, recreational areas, landscaping, and buffering on site. So issues that we find in this section is that we do not believe the sixplex is in keeping with the neighborhood in terms of bulking or massing. The plan does not show how the additional units are going to be incorporated. The rezoning will allow separate dwelling units. So it's not clear if they do get this rezoning, how the other terms of bulking and massing and height, whether or not those will be, those issues will be exacerbated. We believe there's insufficient parking for 6 units. In our opinion, the driveways, now there'll be 3 double driveways. They are very close to the busy intersection of Pancake and Haste. The designated parking that they're providing, so the driveways that they're showing are very close to the curb. This section of Haste, There is no grass boulevard between the sidewalk and the road, which will mean that the cars will butt right up to the sidewalk, which is only 1.5 meters from the road. So in order to actually see past the vehicles that are parked on the other driveways, a vehicle will have to be crossing the sidewalk based on those new sight lines that will be established. Another concern we have is that the proposal does not even meet the requested zoning of 16.3. So here the developer is not even satisfied with the rezoning requirements. He does not even want to respect the requirements under the requested zoning. So I know this is being pointed out in the other presentations, but I just want to emphasize that the required front yard is supposed to be 7.5 meters. They're wanting 4.55. So their shortfall is 2.95 meters. That represents a 39% decrease in what is actually required. If you look at the side yard that's adjacent to Haste and the property on Haste, they're required to have a side yard of 4.5 meters. They're requesting 3.5, a shortfall of 1.45, which is 32% less than required. They're eliminating the planting strip. Planting strips are required when you're moving from one zone to another, and just again show the disrespect that this rezoning will have on the existing neighborhood. They won't even allow for the regulated planting strip. The side yard that's adjacent to Pancake should be 7.5 meters. The request is for 4.55. That's a shortfall of 2.95 meters. Again, 39% less than what is required by the zoning guidelines. The rear yard, which backs on to the property on Pancake, the full length of the property, is required to be 9.9 meters, which again includes the planting strip. They are proposing 7.05 meters, a shortfall of 1.95 meters, 22% less than required. Again, showing an additional disregard to that property that's going to be lying behind them. When you look at the subdivision of land, there are certain safety issues that arise. They're indicating that the new development should not cause any traffic hazard as a result of its specific location. And it mentions, for example, if the location was on a curve or a hill. So let's just take a look at the safety issues and take a look at where this property lies. This proposed development is on a busy school route. As mentioned, it's on the school route for AK Wig. AK Wig has a student population of 345. Most of those children either cycle or walk the sidewalk up to AK Wig. So it's on a busy school route, it's on a corner, it's on a hill, it's on an elevated property with a very steep grade, it's on an already busy intersection, and it's on a corner when Pancake takes a very dangerous dogleg through Haste. It's on a busy traffic, cyclist, and pedestrian route. What more do we need to add? So this development will add additional hazards. By adding a sixplex, what we're going to do is we're going to further restrict sight lines in this intersection. This will negatively impact motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians. It will increase traffic congestion. It will be tripling the number of driveways on this property, and as I mentioned before, very close to the corner of Haste and Pancake. It will be creating dangerous conditions when residents of the proposed dwellings try to exit or enter their driveways. These cars that are parked in these driveways, as I mentioned, will be butting right up against the sidewalks and therefore will be creating very dangerous sight lines. Vehicles will have to be on the sidewalk or road before they're able to see oncoming traffic, oncoming pedestrians, oncoming cyclists. It's also going to be restricting sight lines for motorists that are exiting driveways on nearby properties. This will be especially impacting the properties at 1311 Haste and 1315 Haste. We are at 1315 Haste, and we already understand the problems in reversing out of our driveway. The restricted sight lines caused by the cars parked in these driveways will make that more dangerous for us exiting our driveway. There are additional safety issues. This intersection is already very difficult for motorists, pedestrians, and cyclists to navigate. The proposed development will dramatically increase the risk to those who frequent this intersection on a regular basis. And I must say that the most vulnerable will be young children. These young children that walk or who walk regularly or cycle regularly along this section of Haste. They do that to attend school. They do that to make use of the playground at AK Wig, which is the only one in our area. They go to meet friends. They use this strip to exercise, to ride their bikes, their scooters, and to walk. And they also frequent this area to go and visit the corner stores at Haste and Canberra. So in conclusion, it's my opinion that plans are made for a reason. So official plans, city plans, town plans are made for a reason. Rules, policies, and guidelines are meant to be followed. The province and region requires local councillors and municipal officers or officials to follow the plan, the official plan. Clearly, the petition that I've provided also indicates that the community expects and wants all parties to play by the existing rules. Not following plans and rules set a dangerous precedent. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you for that detailed presentation. Thank you for contributing your time to this meeting. So council, now we will go back. Hopefully we've all been taking notes. We can either ask questions of the applicant, presenter, or Holly, these public, the residents, they are still with us?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just hearing from Ms. Leach that we have two of the three pre-registered members of the public have retained and stayed on the Zoom meeting. The other member appears to have left the meeting. And I would like to know, just to inform council, that I am reviewing the Pelham clerk's email address, and it is 5:20, and we haven't received any emails from members at home streaming. But we do have two of our members from the public still here. I'm seeing that it's the last presenter, Ms. Sizzler, and our first presenter, which I think was Jesse, are available.
Okay, so we'll open up the council. Any comments, questions made on the presentations that we've just heard? Councillor Wink.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Kernahan, I think you've heard loud and clear from the public with respect to concerns about these townhouses having the ability to have accessory apartments or even accessory building, not sure how that would work. Would the developer be okay excluding the accessory apartments from the zoning?
He was on mute. There he is.
My apologies. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I haven't had the opportunity to discuss that option with my client. Just as a point of clarification, we heard on a number of occasions this proposal referred to as a sixplex. It is the intent of my client, who is a home builder, to build 3 townhouse dwellings and sell them off to 3 separate people. So the addition of permissions for accessory dwelling units was quite frankly done at the suggestion of myself as a planner, because from a planning perspective, we think that that's a positive thing. If that was something that council would like us to bring back to my client and discuss with him, I'd be happy to do that.
Could you do so, please?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is just an information session, gathering information from applicants that have made presentations. Okay, any other questions? Councillor Hahn.
Mr. Kernahan, I'm just curious in regards to the trees that were mentioned several times by residents that are concerned about the older trees that are back on the back of the property. Are they to be removed, or what is the plan with those trees, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are trees both at what is now, I suppose, the rear of the property along the east property boundary and along the Hay Street Road allowance. In all likelihood, in order to permit development, those trees would be removed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Hahn?
No, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions or comments, or questions, I guess, basically, on to the presenter? Councillor Wink.
So when you were exiting Pancake onto Hay Street, currently there's sightline issues. Number one, with the bushes that are out front, that causes grief as far as sightline. You had indicated that they would likely be removed, which will improve some sightlines. The other thing is the grade of the property, and nothing's ever been said about the grade sloping on because the property sits a little higher. Are you going to reduce the grade at all down towards Pancake?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wink. Whenever we undertake a development such as this, we're required to do a lot grading plan. And generally speaking, what that lot grading plan does is it blends the grades between adjoining properties and the adjacent roadways in order to ensure that there aren't any adverse impacts on either one of those things. So typically the goal of those is to blend in what's proposed with what's existing. So without knowing the specifics of how exactly that grading plan what it would look like, I can tell you, generally speaking, it would be to blend with the adjacent properties of roadway. Just to go a bit further, if I may, I wouldn't want there to be any misconception about how exactly vehicles will be parked and exit those driveways. The setbacks that we've requested in terms of 6 meters from the garage to the property line, those are measured to a property line. And that property line is well set back inside, away from the roadway from that sidewalk. So there would be 6 meters, which is about the size of a Ford F-150 pickup truck with a full bed between the property line, which is well off that sidewalk inside the property.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions, comments? No. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Mr. Kernahan, you're representing Upper Canada Consultants.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay.
That's the firm that I work for. I'm here on behalf of my client, the numbered company that owns this property.
Oh, okay. So are they currently the owner of the property?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, they are.
Okay, so this isn't someone who's lived in the neighborhood for a long time that's, looking to subdivide their land. This is simply an opportunity for the company you work for to make money without the actual regard for the existing community. Like, I'm not saying there shouldn't be townhouses anywhere, but I find it distasteful, to say the least, to see this kind of a development disrupting a stable community. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, just as a point of clarification, I work for a planning and engineering consulting firm. We're an independent third-party consultant who represents a home builder that does live in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go to the Director of Planning next, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Hahn.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just to, again, clarify, the owner of this property is a local developer. It is not Upper Canada Consultants. So it's a local home builder from Pelham that owns this property.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Councillor Hahn.
And that was my question, whether they were local or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the presenter or for members of the public presenters also? Not seen any. I wish to thank everyone who made presentations at this meeting, especially members of the public. It's great to see a community get involved in the happenings of their community. And like we say, there is no decisions made tonight. This was all for information gathering. So we wish to thank all those that contributed to that. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart that committee receive the applicant's presentation for information. For the vote, Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt that committee receive the written correspondence from those individuals noted on the agenda for information, and that committee receive the verbal presentations by the pre-registered members of the public, and that committee receive any email submissions made by the public to clerks@pelham.ca during the meeting live. I again confirm that we have not received any emails. For the vote, Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink that this special committee of the whole public meeting under the Planning Act be adjourned. For the vote, Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink. Councillor Wink?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries.
So council, we will adjourn this meeting. It's 5:30 now. Let's have a